Welcome everyone to the Deep Dive. Today, we're jumping into something really fascinating and honestly increasingly important. Black soldier fly farming, BSF farming.
That's right.
Now, I know what you might be thinking, flies, maybe not the most glamorous topic.
Maybe not at first glance.
But believe me, these insects, they're becoming a bit of a powerhouse. Seriously, a sustainable solution for, well, both managing waste and producing protein globally. It's quite the story.
It really is an amazing intersection of biology and business innovation.
So our mission today, for you listening, is to really unpack what makes or breaks these BSF farming businesses. What are the critical factors? And here's the really interesting part. These factors, they change dramatically depending on where you are in the world. It's not one size fits all.
Not at all.
So the big question we're tackling is, what are the deal breakers? What leads to success? And how do businesses actually adapt in these very different markets?
And that really is the core of it. The business case itself, the fundamentals, they look completely different if you're talking about developed markets, think Europe, North America versus developing regions.
Like Africa or Southeast Asia.
Exactly. Africa, Southeast Asia, South America, things like labor costs, the whole regulatory scene, what kind of feedstock you can even get your hands on, and of course, market demand. That they all just fundamentally shift the equation.
Okay, let's dig into that. Developed markets first. Europe, North America, I've always heard the regulations there are, well, intense. A huge hurdle for BSF. Is that accurate? Is it really that tough to get started?
Oh, it absolutely can be. That's often the very first major challenge.
Yeah.
The regulatory hurdle, to give you some specifics, BSF meal, it got the green light for EU aquaculture back in 2017. And then later for poultry and pigs, I think around 2021.
Okay, so it is allowed, but...
Yeah. But yeah, there's a big but. It's definitely not a free-for-all. The rules around the substrate, what you feed the larvae, are incredibly strict. Things like manure, certain kinds of food waste, completely banned in many cases.
Wow.
And it's not just about ticking a box once. The really critical thing here, the insight, is that these regulations for novel feeds like BSF, they're constantly evolving. They're not static.
So you have to keep up.
Precisely. The successful companies, they don't just, get compliant and stop. They invest. They have dedicated regulatory people, or they hire consultants who are watching for the shifts.
Like changes in what feedstocks might be allowed next.
Yeah.
Or new data needed.
Exactly that. They turn compliance from just a cost into like a strategic advantage. Because if you don't comply, especially with things like the EU novel food rules or the FDA and EFS feed regulations, well, that's it. Game over. It's an absolute showstopper.
That's a really crucial point. If you can't legally sell your product, you don't have a business. Simple as that. Okay, so let's say you navigate the regulations. You get through that door. It sounds like the next big battle in these developed markets is often just the sheer cost of running the operation. These high operating costs. How do they force companies to adapt their strategy?
They force adaptation in a huge way. Labor costs are high, right? So factory-level automation becomes pretty much essential. You just can't rely on manual labor the way you might elsewhere.
So how do they make the numbers work then? Automation is expensive too.
It is. Well, one way is premium pricing. You often find buyers, particularly those really focused on sustainability, who are willing to pay a bit more for an eco-friendly protein source.
Okay, the sustainability angle helps justify the price.
It does, but that only goes so far. If your processing isn't efficient, maybe your larval yield isn't great. That can torpedo your profitability fast.
It's not just about fewer larvae, is it? It's about the efficiency.
Exactly. Even a small dip in their health or how well they convert feed into body mass, that can massively inflate your cost per kilo.
Yeah.
Suddenly your margins just evaporate.
And what about getting the feedstock itself, even the allowed stuff?
That's another potential killer. High competition for the compliant, clean substrate you need. If everyone's fighting for the same pre-consumer bakery waste, for instance, the price goes up. Another hit to your operating costs.
Right, so it's pressure from multiple sides. Okay, so high costs are a given, regulations are tight. Success then also really depends on who you're selling to. What's the market demand and competition like? Is there a ready market, or is it a fight for customers too?
Well, the good news is there is strong demand. Sectors like aquaculture, pet food, that's a big one, and even organic farms are definitely interested.
And I've heard about government grants sometimes for circular economy type projects.
Yes, that's often available too, which can be a really significant boost, especially for getting set up initially. Capital costs are high.
But are there pitfalls on the market side too?
Oh, absolutely. A really critical failure point we see sometimes is over-reliance on just one single buyer.
Putting all your eggs in one basket.
Pretty much. Especially in an early-stage industry like BSF, landing a huge contract with, say, one massive fish farm seems like a huge win. And it is, initially.
But risky.
Very risky. The really insightful players, the ones building resilient businesses, they diversify. They might still have large contracts, but they also sell into smaller, maybe higher margin niches. Exotic pet food, maybe, or even selling the frass, the insect manure, for gardening.
So they spread the risk.
Exactly. It cushions them if something changes with that big buyer, or if the dynamics in the large-scale animal feed markets shift, which they inevitably do.
Okay, so pulling that together for developed markets, it really sounds like the winning formula involves smart automation, maybe not full, but significant, plus really watertight certifications, and then strategically aiming for those higher margin buyers.
That sums it up well.
So if you're listening and thinking about this space in, say, Europe or the US, the big action step seems clear. Audit those regulations inside and out before you scale. That's non-negotiable.
Absolutely. Before you spend the big money.
And look seriously at automation, maybe semi-automation, or using grants to help cover the workforce you do need. Get those certifications sorted early, EFSA, FDA, OMRI, for organic.
Crucial. Build that credibility.
Yeah, and target those buyers willing to pay a bit more, like pet food or organic farms. Maybe even try, like you said, smaller retail packages for extra revenue. Diversify.
That's the path to resilience there.
Okay, now this is where you said it gets really interesting. The picture just flips when we look at developing regions, Africa, Southeast Asia, South America. You mentioned the rules change. So what's the actual difference when it comes to labor versus automation there? Is it just cheaper labor, or are there other maybe hidden factors?
It's like a completely different universe, economically speaking. The low cost of labor just fundamentally alters the approach.
So less need for fancy robots.
Pretty much. Manual operations become totally feasible. You don't need that expensive, high-tech European equipment. We see lots of successful small-scale models. Think village-level BSF farms producing feed for local poultry farmers. Works really well.
Okay, that sounds much more accessible. But are there downsides?
Yes. A really significant obstacle often is poor training. If the workers aren't properly trained in handling the larvae, managing the conditions, you get high mortality rates. Very high sometimes.
So the low labor cost advantage gets eaten up if the larvae just die.
Exactly. And tied to that is this challenge sometimes of finding consistent, reliable training. You can get this sort of everyone's an expert mindset, which makes quality control hard.
Interesting. Have you seen cases where training, or the lack of it, really made or broke a project in these regions?
Oh, definitely. Good training leads to efficient, low mortality systems. Bad or inconsistent training, it can sink the whole operation before it even gets going properly. You lose your stock, waste your feedstock.
Yeah.
It's a killer.
Okay, that's critical. What about the feedstock availability and regulations? You hinted they were more flexible. How different is it?
Massively different. Regulations are often much, much more flexible. They frequently allow a far wider range of substrates.
Like manure, market waste, things banned in Europe.
Yes, exactly. Manure, market vegetable waste, various agricultural byproducts. Things that would be unthinkable as feedstock in the EU might be perfectly acceptable, even encouraged.
That must make getting inputs much cheaper, right?
Huge advantage. Inputs are often free, or at least very, very cheap. There's often abundant food waste available locally, so your production costs on the input side can be drastically lower.
Sounds ideal, but I sense another but coming.
You're learning. Yes, there's a flip side. Contaminated waste is a major, major pitfall.
Like plastics, chemicals.
Precisely. If you get a batch of waste that's contaminated with plastics or heavy metals or cleaning chemicals, it can wipe out your entire larval colony. Just like that.
One bad batch ruins everything.
It can. I recall one project, they nearly went under, got a truckload of restaurant waste, looked fine, but it had industrial cleaning agents mixed in, unknowingly. It wasn't just losing those larvae, they had to do a massive cleanup of their whole system. Nearly bankrupted them.
Wow, okay, that really drives home the risk management needed even with free inputs. So let's talk about the market side, market challenges. I assume in these regions there's a strong local need. Affordable protein is often a huge issue, isn't it?
Absolutely, massive need. Local livestock farmers, poultry farmers, they're often desperate for affordable protein sources. Things like imported fish meal or soybean meal can be incredibly expensive.
So BSF could be a direct local solution.
Potentially, yes. And don't forget the other product, the frass.
Right, the fertilizer byproduct.
Exactly. That insect casting material is fantastic organic fertilizer, and there's usually very high demand for it from smallholder farmers. It's another valuable revenue stream.
Okay, sounds promising. What are the critical deal breakers on the market side then?
Well, a big one is often the lack of clear buyer pipelines initially. Farmers might not even be aware of BSF or its benefits. They're used to soy or fish meal.
So there's an education piece needed.
A huge education piece. You can't just show up with BSF meal and expect them to buy it. And critically, the price has to work. It must be able to directly compete with the price of the soy or fish meal they're currently using.
It doesn't matter how sustainable it is if it costs more.
For many small-scale farmers, exactly, price is king. If your BSF product isn't cost competitive, they simply won't or can't make the switch. The sustainability story is secondary to the economics for many buyers there.
Okay, so summing up for developing markets. The successful strategies look really different, it sounds like. Start small. Focus intensely on training your workers to keep those larvae alive and healthy.
Crucial first steps. Nail the basics.
Then partner up locally. Work with waste collectors from markets, maybe local farms, to get that feedstock reliably.
Build those local relationships, essential.
And you absolutely have to educate the potential buyers, the farmers. Show them the benefits, maybe run demo plots or feeding trials.
Prove the value proposition. Build trust.
And only then, once you've got your production humming and you've proven the model works locally, only then do you think about scaling up.
Yes, don't scale up problems, scale up success. The key action step really is pilot it. Start with a small farm setup, work with just a handful of initial customers, and prove that return on investment first.
Got it. Prove the ROI, build that local trust.
Exactly. So, if we connect all this back to the bigger picture, it becomes crystal clear. The success of any BSF business really hinges on adapting very specifically to its unique local context, that the economics, the regulations.
Right.
In developed markets, it's a game of automation, navigating complex and evolving regulations, finding those high-value niche buyers.
High tech, high compliance, high value.
Pretty much. Whereas in developing markets, it's about leveraging that lower-cost labor effectively, making the most of flexible, abundant waste streams, and very directly meeting local needs for affordable protein and fertilizer.
Low tech maybe, but high touch, focused on local needs and cost competitiveness.
You've got it. Two very different paths to success.
So what does all this mean for you listening in?
Well, I think this deep dive really highlights how even something that sounds relatively simple, like farming insects, requires this incredibly nuanced understanding. You need to grasp the market dynamics, the local conditions to really make it work.
Definitely not a one-size-fits-all industry.
No, but maybe that's its strength. It seems highly adaptable. Different models work in different places.
That adaptability is key to its potential, I think.
Okay, so here's the final thought to leave you with. We're seeing this huge global push for more sustainable food systems, right? And reducing waste is massive.
Huge drivers.
So given these very different approaches to BSF farming, we've just talked about the high-tech European model versus the lower-tech localized model in other regions. How might these eventually converge, or could they cross-pollinate somehow? Could innovations from one type of market actually create new pathways or benefits for the other, maybe in ways we haven't even thought of yet?
That's a great question. Convergence or new synergies?
Something to chew on. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.